React content? Yep. And you're going to like it. All right, for context, he was excited for Ashes for a long time. This is a segment of his MMO podcast talking about his thoughts on Ashes. He played on the first and second day for the alpha this weekend. Got it. All right, fair enough. Here we go.
What's your take on Ashes so far?
Yeah, so trying to figure out how I would word this. Right now, there's a lot of bugs. I think the biggest so personally I actually have fun with the game. I felt like the combat was better than what I had seen. It just felt pretty fun. I genuinely just had fun with the game, but the game is in a very bad state. It's like it feels like an incomplete game. You know what I mean? It really.
Okay, so first things first, yeah, there's a lot of bugs. The game does feel like an incomplete game because it's literally an incomplete game. But he's not wrong. It's been fun to play, and personally, I only have like 80 hours or so in Throne and Liberty, but the combat's better than Throne and Liberty, for me. I think TNL combat sucks. It's very meh. So
it does feel like the game is broken. That's the best way I can put it. And that's not me shitting on the game. That's just me. It's like everywhere you go, every movement you see, there's something wrong. My character had transparent frames on her throughout my entire playing experience. I couldn't even see her full model covered. Like I'm talking like her skin, you know, like her neck would be transparent. You know what I mean? Yep. We had like when I'm walking with Maddie never walked straight. My friend that I was playing with, he was constantly zigzagging. I have a really funny clip about that because he was like,
I mean, maybe his friend likes to zigzag, but no, like yeah, these are all issues, but I think they're very minor issues, like texture problems on your character, like transparency, like that's like a super fast fix. So,
what the you talking about, motherfucker? I'm walking a perfectly straight line in all my screen as he's saying it. He's going like this. It's the funniest clip ever. So, and you know, and then like you know, I see S-Fan's video where he's talking about it. Literally, his character is not moving at all, and he's on his horse, and his horse is just gliding.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the game is obviously broken in that regard. It's not good enough. So like for me, right, I think if I'm going to be reviewing this game objectively, doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter who you are, after 8 years, Ashes of Creation right now is behind the ball. It's not good enough, period.
Yeah,
if you and if you find offense to that, then I feel like you're part of the problem, because you should be pushing them to fix their game and make it better. I think they can fix their game, and I
mean, I said this on my stream. It's kind of like if somebody asks me how long has this game been in development, I kind of laugh. It's like 8 years, bro, because it is a little bit of a yikes, right? You expect 8 years of development time to have a game absolutely much further than it currently is. One biome out of everything they want to do, a lot of bugs, a lot of networking issues. He's absolutely right on that. Though, to be fair as well, it hasn't really been an 8 years of development, like not really. And what I mean by that is, first things first, the first few years, they had a much smaller team. It's only been recently, I don't know how many, like, what is it, like the last 2 years or so that they really ramped up the team size to like 200 plus. So, first few years, again, very small team. It's bigger now. So, you can't say it's been like 8 years of like linear development. It's ramping up towards the end. Secondly, going from UE4 to UE5, now you can argue whether that was a good move or not. Me personally, I mean, I think UE4 looked great, but, and I mean, TNL, for example, Throne of Liberty is done in UE4, so it's a really good looking game as well. It looks better. I mean, if I compare it to Ashes, I would say Throne of Liberty right now is nicer looking than Ashes is. So that also put them quite far behind in terms of development time. So I wouldn't say like it's horrible state for 8 years, because it really hasn't been 8 years. Does that make sense?
The canvas is good. So now I get the sentiment, because if you were to add context, the reality is, and this is why I'm a little bit more positive about the game, is because like what Steve said, my expectation of the game was lower, because I looked at the company for what it was. I looked at this as literally some random bozo saying, with zero experience in game dev, with zero experience in MMORPG business, saying, I'm gonna fucking make a game. It's no different from me saying right now, I'm going to make an MMORPG, right? There's a reason why people expect Riot's MMO to be good. It's because of everything Riot is. They have funding, they have expertise, they have experience. Sure. Ashes of Creation, Intrepid, And I know he promised all that stuff, and that's like to me that's just noise. Like I literally looked at this as some random guy, small budget at first, right? Small team for the longest time, and they came through, and the excuses that they're making is, oh, they pivoted away, they had to redo the thing on Unreal Engine 5, you know, they had a small team at first, and all of those are valid points, right? But in the eyes of the people that are expecting a AAA polished game, that shit doesn't matter. But if you're someone that is supportive of their company and their vision, then of course you're going to be more lenient to that, because you understand the context of this being a team that was literally just some random guy starting it. And there's no way, like if you ask me, hey, do you think that Intrepid, aka Steven, and these 2-3 people who's on his team, whatever, doing a Kickstarter MMO, do you think this is going to be the next MMO that's at the level of like Riot's MMO, that's at the level of Blizzard's next MMO, whatever that may be? My answer is, of course not. It's gonna be garbage. It's gonna be shit. You know, of course. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? There's a big.
Well, I mean, it's never. I don't think anybody expected it to launch off at the size of a Riot MMO or Blizzard's next MMO. Well, that's because those are already established IPs. I don't think anybody thinks that. I think there's a lot of people hoping that once the game is out, that it's so good that it can build its way towards that. And I think it's fine to hope for that, but. Did anybody really think launch day Ashes is going to be like the biggest MMO in the world? Not really.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the truth. It's that was my perspective. So my standard and expectation of the game was way lower. I wasn't expecting a AAA polished game. I was expecting exactly kind of what I.
Also, like, I don't see the point of like saying expecting a AAA polished game or what. Like, this is an alpha too. It's one thing to say, hey, listen, I'm going to review it on launch day where the game is out, or at least a little bit closer, like the final beta before launch. That's fine. You can make the argument on like, yeah, I expected more, but like, why are we talking about AAA polished game at all? We're so far away from release. Alpha 2 is literally a test to test basics networking, to see if the game runs well, to see if the servers crash. It's like this is literally the worst state the game will ever be at, ever.
God. I'm not surprised that that's the current state that it's in, because also 8 years, I know it's a long time, but games take anywhere, like major companies that have experience, structure, the backbone, everything that's already there, those games take anywhere from 8 to 15 years, or those companies will take 8 to 15 years to actually do. Of course, even shorter. So like, you know, there's some that have been shorter. So I'm just kind of giving a range.
Also keep in mind, those companies don't start off with like a 15, 20 man team or whatever it is that Ashes had. They start off with their full team, and they continue that way. Again, Ashes did have a pretty damn small team early on. So to say like, oh my God, 8 years in development is just, it's a little bit like, I think it comes down to people just not wanting to wait. For me personally, I don't care if Ashes is the next great MMO. I just want a next great MMO. Listen, I have no vested interest in, like, I have no bias. I didn't invest money in Ashes. If Ashes flops horribly, but there's another MMO that does it really well in the same time, awesome. I got an MMO to play, I'm happy. If Ashes in 3 years absolutely sucks balls, but Riot decides to drop their MMO on us, it's amazing, you think I'm going to care? No. All I want is a good game. So if Ashes says, listen, we're going to take a few more years, I'm not going to start screaming, well, the game is dead to me now. No. I'll wait a few more years. And when it comes out, if it's great, I'll play it. If it sucks, I won't play it. This entire rush of like, oh my God, it's been 8 years, let's throw a fit. Well, you want them to what? Like, what do you want from them? To release it early? To like to scrap a lot of concepts they originally wanted in the game? Do you want them to like go backwards and say, well, fine, we'll just release it early, we'll patch everything as well as we can in the next few months and we're just going to drop it down? I mean, I feel like that's what people want. Why? What's the rush? Again, maybe they did expect it to have it out in 8 years, but maybe they increased their scope. Maybe they wanted more things. Maybe they ran into technical issues. That's all fine. We've seen pretty fast development, especially recently. And I mean, I'm pretty sure this guy hasn't been in the pre-alpha tests, but they do update really damn fast when they see issues.
And like, so it's like, I think maybe 6 to 15. 10, right? So
okay, and video took 7.
Right, that's on the faster end. So like, if companies and Pearl Abyss is I feel like they did a fantastic job, because Pearl Abyss was kind of in a similar, they weren't like a Blizzard, right? Like Pearl Abyss is not like a Blizzard at the time, right? But regardless, like if these major companies that already have foundation backing money takes that long to create and develop a AAA MMO, how the fuck is random ass Steven over here going to match that? There's no way. Of course it's going to take longer. That's my perspective on it. But if I'm reviewing the game objectively for what it is right now in comparison to all the other top MMOs, they need work. They're way behind the ball. The game feels broken and it's bad. It's objectively bad. But
Oh wait, what? That's unfair though. You're reviewing it as a release game. Nobody in their right mind says the game is released. Nobody. So, if you're objectively reviewing the game compared to other MMOs out right now, that's like me saying, "Hey, I'm gonna make some scrambled eggs," and I don't cook the eggs; they're still raw. I taste the eggs like, yeah, you know what? If I'm gonna give an objective review to these eggs compared to the restaurant I went down to yesterday, yeah, I think these eggs are objectively bad. Yeah, give it time to cook, bro. Like that's not an objective review. You can't review something objectively in the wrong category. It doesn't make sense.
Canvas is there. I had fun, but the game itself, it's bad.
There's no game. There's an alpha to a game.
No. I think the biggest challenge for Steven and his team in Intrepid is for them to get this game to be ready for launch, not broken. So like actually to polish this game up before it gets outdated. Because like
that's hard, dude.
That's the biggest, and
it's gonna be super hard.
I don't know if they can do that. Now, it's reasonable. Like, I'm not gonna shit on Steven for trying.
Yeah, that's a decent point. But like, what do you mean by before it gets outdated? Like, are we talking graphics-wise outdated? What does it mean for it to get outdated? In terms of just like graphics, there's no real outdating Active Creation except for how it looks visually. Like, if we're saying if it takes them 5 years, and 5 years from now, every game looks absolutely amazing because, I don't know, the new NVIDIA 70X cards came out and they can run like 5,000 times better graphics than before. I mean, other than that, like, how is it going to get outdated? I mean, graphics in Unreal 5 can be improved pretty quickly. You want to add a little bit more resolution, a bit more. I just don't get that part.
Trying, because it's like the odds are against. I genuinely think the odds are against him. I'm not going to shit on him for trying, but he is trying. But at the end of the day, you know, even as this is kind of my athlete mentality is like, if you do go compete in that tournament, no one gives a shit about your history, your experience. It's whether you get the job done or not.
That's 100% true. Like, nobody will give a shit how much effort Steven put in. If the game sucks, the game sucks.
I don't know if they can get the job done in time before it gets outdated.
Yeah. I mean, nobody knows if he's going to get it done in time, but what does like in time mean? I do think it's going to take well over 2 more years to see anything that's very, very fun and like super put together. I'm not even talking about release. I'm saying it'll probably take 2+ years for the game to be in a really nice place. Maybe even 3+ years. And who knows when release is actually going to happen. But so this is a pretty short video. It's 6 minutes. And this is probably like cuts of what he said. So without watching the full thing, without cuts and editing, I don't really want to criticize what he says because it might have been out of context. Though it is his channel, right? So I don't know if it's I guess it would be his fault if he put it out of context. Though his major argument was, if I am to review this fairly compared to other MMOs, it's broken and it sucks. And that just makes no sense. Because it's not an MMO. It's not a game. It's an alpha to a game where they're testing the basics of the basics. A lot of other stuff he says is right, though. He's judging server stress test alpha by releasing game standards. Yeah. It is an alpha that was released to the public, so it is judged by higher standards. Okay, yes, but like, you need to have something. So when you say this is objectively bad, you beg the question compared to what, right? Because everything is relative. This game sucks. In what sense compared to what, right? You can say the game is boring AF and the combat feels really bad. But to say like, as a game, Throne and Liberty is better. Well, no duh, bro. Like, of course it's better. And to be fair, I don't know. Like, I quit Throne and Liberty pretty fast. I probably am getting close to the point of having more hours in Ashes. They'll probably die out if they release around the same time as Riot's MMO. Well, it's a good thing they don't have a publisher and they can release whatever the hell they want. If they see Riot is going to release the same day as them, they'll delay the release, obviously. You can talk about bugs, about what's missing. You can say it's crap for an alpha. Yeah, absolutely. Like, if your honest opinion is, for an alpha, this is really bad, that's fine. Look, me personally speaking, if they would have released the game in alpha stage 2 months ago, I would have said it's absolute trash. And I'm worried. Why? Because 2 months ago, there was a lot of problems. Like, not the problems we see now, like some actual serious problems. I was not sure they could handle these problems. The state it is in, like, the state the game is in now, it's actually fun to play. Now, you might have been one of the unlucky ones who got into the game, had servers crashing you 3 times, gotten 20 minutes of gameplay in, all 20 minutes were laggy, and you're like, well, this is the worst experience of my life. Unlucky. But a lot of people did have a lot of fun. They did get out of the starting zones. They did do a lot of fun grinding, met people, did some dungeons, and had a good time. And I think for an Alpha 1, I would say it's... Okay, so we have to be careful what we mean by Alpha 1. I think for an Alpha that is really an Alpha, testing the bare bones of the game, it felt good. He doesn't give a shit about being right. He's a bit of a hype click chaser. He's going to play PoE2 as well. And he has never touched PoE. That's fine. I'll play PoE2. I mean, I have played PoE1. Nothing wrong with that. Can't wait until next weekend. I can see their vision, and I love where it's going. I mean, next weekend, I don't know what's going to be, if it's going to be very different from this weekend.
If I'm going to be reviewing this game objectively, doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter who you are, after 8 years, Ashes of Creation right now is behind the ball. It's not good enough, period.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you talk about like where it's at after 8 years, I think we can agree. But why does that matter? Like, you can say that, but that only makes sense if you don't take things into context. Let me ask you this. If we would have asked him, hey, how do you think Ashes of Creation's Alpha 1 is after 4 years of development? He'd probably say, oh, I think it's pretty damn good. Right? So 8 years is taken super out of context, and the context is being the early years was a very small team, and secondarily, they took a long time to go from UE4 to UE5. So let's say if it was 4 years. I mean, so again, like, without context, he's right, but with context, and he has the context. It's not like he doesn't know this. It's a bit of a weird thing to say.
For sure.
And if you find offense to that, then I feel like you're part of the problem, because you should be pushing them to fix their game and make it.
Nobody needs to push them to fix their game. That's literally what they're doing. I hope they fix their game. The game has a lot of problems. There's no part of the problem here. I think everybody says, hey, there's a bug here. We report the bug, we complain.
Better. I think they can fix their game, and I think the canvas is good.
Okay.
So now I get the sentiment, because if you were to add context, the reality is, and this is why I'm a little bit more positive about the game, is because like what Steve said, my expectation of the game was lower, because I looked at the company for what it was. I looked at this as literally some random bozo saying, with zero experience in game dev, with zero experience in MMORPG business, saying, I'm gonna make a game. It's no different.
All right, so he's saying he likes what he sees for a dev team that has no experience in making games. I mean, okay, sure.
Way lower. I wasn't expecting a AAA polished game. I was expecting exactly kind of what I got. I'm not surprised that that's the current state it's in, because also 8 years, I know it's a long time, but games take anywhere, like major companies that have experience, structure, the backbone, everything that's already there, those games take anywhere from 8 to 15 years.
I have a hard time responding to this, because he's kind of saying one thing and he's refuting the thing he said like right after. So it's kind of strange, man. Kind of a weird video. It's like, yeah, sure. Some companies take up to 15 years to make a product. In that case, Ashes is well above track under your own definition of how long it takes to make a game. Then he says, this doesn't feel good for a AAA game. Then other times he says, yeah, well, I kind of like where it's, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. He's all over the place, and that was kind of fun.